How's it going, everybody? We are now going to be looking at solving inequalities that's dealing with multiplication and division. So if you haven't already, make sure that you watch the video on solving inequalities with addition and subtraction. And if you haven't watched that, I would definitely watch the solving equations, multi-step, one-step, two-step, all those. Because what makes this a little tricky is that there's one extra step that you have to take when dealing with a negative coefficient. I'll go over that. Just got to stay nice and organized with these. We'll even take some word problems in there. But if you could, make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe, like the video if you like it, leave a comment, and suggest anything that you would like me to see me go over in the future. Thanks. All right, let's take a look at our first problem here. So what it states is that 14 times a number, or 14 times W, is less than or equal to negative 2.8. So just as if there was an equal sign in the middle, we're going to treat it the same way. All right, nothing changes really. So we see that 14 is being multiplied to the W, so we're going to divide by 14. All right, so we're left with the W. Nothing is happening with our inequality sign, which we'll see later on. There will be something that takes place with that. We'll talk about it. So we use our party hat method, which if you don't know anything about that, I would say to go back to our integers with multiplying and dividing. We have a positive and a negative, so that means we cross out and we're left with a negative answer, and we have a result of negative 0.2. And then if we're asked to graph it, we have negative 0.2 on the graph here, which is to the left of the 0. In this case, we can put the dot above or on the graph. Most kids choose to put it on above it. And since we have a line underneath, it's a solid dot. And because it's pointing to the left here, we're going to shade to the left. All right, here's our next one. So whereas before it was just straight one-step inequality problem, here we have to simplify over here. Okay, so we have negative 4 times positive 6. So we go back to our party hat method again. We have a negative 4, positive 6, leaves us with a negative 24. Then we have negative 8c. Now, unlike the problem before, our coefficient was positive. This is where it changes a lot. So we're going to divide by our negative 8. So we have c. I'm not going to do anything with the inequality sign, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So a positive, or a negative and a negative, indicates that we'll have a positive result, so we have a positive 3. Now, since we were dividing, and it's the same rule if you're multiplying, by a negative coefficient, the inequality sign has to be flipped. All right, so this can get really confusing if our variables on the left or on the right side, there's a lot of flipping taking place. So our final answer is C is less than or equal to 3. And we graph that, we have a 3 here. Circle, we're going to close that, and we're going to shade it to the left. All right, looking at this problem, it may at first look like it's actually easier than the two other problems that we did, but there's a lot going on here that we need to talk about. So remember I said at the beginning of inequalities that you always want to have your inequality on the left. So we're going to completely switch this. We're going to put this over here, negative 6m. All right, so now our variables on the left, we're going to put this over here, 24. Now, you don't want to get lost with these inequalities. So if it's originally pointing at 24, point at 24 here. All right, now we can go ahead and solve. We're going to divide by negative 6. We divide by negative 6 here. All right, I'm not going to do anything with that inequality sign yet because we got to see if we're going to flip it or not. So party hat rule again. All right, I got a positive 24 and a negative 6. So we have negative 4 as a result. We need to go back and check and see if we were multiplying or dividing by a negative. Well, we were. So now this inequality sign has to be flipped. All right, we can go ahead and plot this on the graph. Negative 4. Close circle again. And we're going to shade to the left because of our arrowhead right there. All right, let's take a look at this word problem here. We'll read through it real quick. 4 families are planning to make a joint purchase at a warehouse club. So that basically means that whatever they pay, it's going to be evenly distributed amongst the family of 4, or the 4 families. in order to purchase no more than 15 pounds of potatoes for each family, how many should they buy? All right, so we know that we're going to have 15. That's the total that they want to buy, or no more than. So no more than means that, well, can it be equal to 15? Sure, but it cannot be greater than 15. All right, we have 4 families. We'll let P represent the amount of potatoes that they're going to get. And remember, this is in pounds. So we're going to divide by, because we're looking at each. That's the key word to indicate that we're going to divide. We divide 15 by our 4. So what they should end up getting is 3.75 pounds of potatoes, or you can indicate that as a fraction, 3 3/4. Okay, so that is our lesson on solving inequalities with multiplication and division. So as indicated, the biggest difference between this and our solving inequalities with adding and subtracting is that if you are dividing by a coefficient, dividing or multiplying by a coefficient that is negative, the sign has to be flipped. And you can see with that third problem there that you could be flipping up to 2 times in some cases, okay? So as always, you want to be thorough, showing all the work, because there's a lot of chances that you could mess up your graphing or what your inequality will look like when you're finally done. So I would suggest to maybe watch this a couple times if you're still having issues, and feel free to make a comment if there's something else that you would like to see me do. All right, have a good day.